Welcome to Crowe Guitars, welcome to the building of BoB1. It has been 2 or 3 weeks now since I finished the build, and towards the end of the year I ended up rushing, and you have all heard me say do not rush at the end of a build just because you want to finish it, and I'm guilty of doing exactly that. I am in this video going to do a full setup and show you how I will do that. I'm also going to remake the control knob because what I thought, well, technically the one I did worked, it's just ugly as hell and not good. I'm also going to take the bridge off because I completely forgot to put a bridge ground in my haste. I'm going to make a crimson logo because the guitar needs a logo, and I am going to take the tuners off and rearrange those a little bit. They are staggered and I flipped a couple around, unfortunately. There will also be my personal sigil on the back of the headstock. But at the end of this, this instrument will be finished and playable. And we're going to hang on for a couple more weeks because we do need to just make sure it's stable. It hasn't moved at all over the holiday period, and yeah, this construction. People are worried that it's going to warp and change and move. It is as solid. It's more solid with all of these rather large pieces of timber. It is more solid than an acoustic instrument, and you know, can't complain. So, well. Strings off, I suppose. Let's get a bridge ground drilled and sort these tuners out. All right, on to building a control knob. Now, for one thing, the thing that I made earlier in this build is not very attractive. It's not big enough, and it's going to cover the nut on the control knob. So, and that's the worst thing about that. It's far too open. So I'm going to have to recess where the knob is, and I want it curved, sort of a sphere or a dome shaped, and I'm going to make it out of a piece of ebony. African blackwood? I think this might be African blackwood. This is an interesting old, or little tool. I've taken the shaft from a pot and put it in a piece of brass. And yeah. Guitar finishing oil. Let this soak in for a minute or two, and then we'll buff. Oil applied. My grain is going that way, and I want to drill. Just gently. A final buff and polish, and we're done. I'm using some of our hard wax that we're working on here at Crimson. Too thick. Damn it. Back to the lathe. Or I could just drop it. Turns out I forgot one very important thing. This entire guitar is wedged. And yeah, this is now smaller and fits. So. How to wire it up? This is a little bit strange. Because the controller is now edge on, you would expect the way the pots work, the volume turning up is pointing towards the bottom of the guitar. And that is quieter, which I quite like. Means you're not going to turn the guitar down by mistake. And that's how pots normally work. A right-hand turn turns the volume up. However, for some reason my entire body is saying it should be the other way. Now I could change that just by switching the two outer lugs on the pot, but I'm not going to. Works. I'd like it. It does need a little bit of a setup though. And a little bit of tuning too. So, well, all right. Well, the first part of a setup is to make sure the guitar is roughly in tune. So let's do that. I'll turn the amp down first. So the basics of a guitar setup are pretty simple, in all honesty. It's how you finesse it at the end that makes all of the difference between a well set up guitar and one that just works. Now, very basically, the first thing you need to do is take your neck, use the truss rod to adjust the neck so that it is straight and flat. And then from there put a little bit of relief in Hold the string down at either end of the fretboard, and then you should have a very small gap. That is enough relief in my book. And you will notice I use the words little bit and feel it and see, because I don't measure. I don't say it needs to be 3/32 of an inch high, whatever that is. Hold on. I've got a string action gauge here by Crimson Guitars, which we've got a nice thing. 3/32 of an inch is, I don't know, little, not very much. I can't find it. There's a thing on the back here. A digression. Okay, so first of all, straighten the neck, put a little bit of relief in the neck. Next, get your saddles adjusted so that your strings are relatively low down at the 12th fret, for example. We do want to have about 1.5 to 2 mil on the bass and 1 to 1.5 mil, say, on the treble side, and that is from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string, and using a string action gauge on that is a good idea. Once you've got that done, you need to then move on to the nut, and the nut is the last thing that you do. Now, when we made this guitar, we cut the nut slots down to roughly where we thought we needed to be and left just a little bit of space using the groove bars to make sure that we didn't go too deep, and they do the job very, very well. Now what we want to do is finesse it. Holding the string down at the 3rd fret, you should be able to move the string up and down with your other hand. Do I need to specify that? Very lightly. If the string doesn't move at all, then your nut slot is already basically too low, or maybe your truss rod, your relief is a little bit, your neck is too flat, basically. But this is where the musician really feels it. The nut is the most important bit. So once your neck is straight with a little bit of relief, and your saddles are the right height, you go back, you adjust the nut, and you want that nice and low. I do, when I start all of this, I tend to make sure that the intonation is roughly right. Most guitars that you get will be repairs, and they will have an intonation that is already basically set. Now, the final thing you do is, after you've got the nut height sorted, you are convinced there is no string buzz anywhere, it's bending and it's not fretting out in any way or place, then you go and you set the intonation very carefully and precisely. And when all is said and done, that sounds like quite a few tasks, but really, it's fairly straightforward. Okay, holding the guitar in playing position. Have a ponder through and see if you can feel any issues. Remember, earlier on in the build, because I built this guitar, I set the radius correctly using a radius gauge, and that's already there, basically. I'm not hearing any buzz. The only thing that I can feel that is slightly wrong is the fact that I took a slash of skin off my finger the other day while doing something silly. The guitar is pretty much set up. And, well, this is the way we like it. We've double-checked everything. There's no buzzing. We're at the final stage where I want to double-check the tuning, and I am then going to set the intonation. I like this guitar. And this is basically it. You adjust the intonation. Now, I will, for sake of comfort, do all of this in this position. Now, people say that you have to check your intonation in playing position, and I do that at the end. I will go through everything, double check, make sure it's in tune, turn the volume up. For a horrifying second there, I thought that the electrics were broken again. Okay, spot on. You'll remember that I roughly set the intonation during the build process, and I was amazed that just by sight I managed to get it pretty much spot on. Now that is a little bit flat, so we need to shorten the string length, which means that. And then after this, I will go back in playing position and just double check everything. And that's a little sharp, so we need to lengthen the string. Still a fraction sharp. Spot on. Okay. Intonation's done. If there is any buzzing, then you need to adjust the action and the saddles and all that jazz. Do not forget that you also need to then go back and readjust and recheck your intonation. Really shouldn't have cut the tip of that finger off. This guitar is set up. It's not quite done. I've still got some inlay things to do. I need to make a crimson logo and one of my sigils for the back of the headstock, and then we are done. Done. So fun. thank you for watching. Thank you for being amazing. This has been an incredibly interesting build. I'm already planning BoB2. BoB2 is going to be maple, or sycamore at least, because it works so much better than whatever wood this is. Yeah, I'm going to see how far I can push the boundaries in the next one. There is another video coming in this series, and that is going to be a proper demo, and that will be coming at some point soon. But in the meantime, please subscribe, please check out crimsonguitars.com. The competition to win this guitar is over. We will be announcing the winner in one of the What's on the Bench videos coming soon. There will be the word competition in the title. It's all good. I am so excited by how this guitar has turned out. I love the sound, I love the weight, I love the look of it, and I had a blast building it. I hope you enjoyed watching me make it. Subscribe. See you soon. Well, I'm going to tidy the workshop up a little bit and then start on the 90 hour again. The complication. Now that's a guitar build.